Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this call. It's Monday evening. It's Crypto Talk, and we are on our post, and we have a number of people in the room. Welcome to everyone live in the room. For those of you who are live on Facebook, welcome to this room. And for everyone that's on this call tonight for the first time, welcome. This call is actually for you. No, just joking. We are for those that are here for the first time as well, but we actually here for those that are here for the first time, isn't it? So can we maybe see in the chat box? Can you pop out the chat box from the Zoom at the bottom? Pop out the chat box, and if it's your first time in this room, just type a number 1 for us, a chat number 1. So if it's the first time that you're in the room with us at Crypto Talk, at this specific program on a Monday evening, Rudo Viljoen, what a liar. Hello, Rudo, buddy. I see the funny in that. So if you're on the call for the first time, just type a 1. If it's the first time that you're on Crypto Talk, this specific program, type a 1. William van Aarde, welcome. I can see that you say number 1, Ndab Benle. My apology if I said your name, Ndaba. If I said your name incorrectly, I'm learning to pronounce names properly, so I'm getting better at it. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel van Zeil. Welcome to this call. It's an absolute privilege to be with you on this call tonight. Tonight, we talk everything crypto. And tonight, we talk everything crypto and a little bit about the life of the people behind the scenes in crypto. So it's a privilege being with you on the call. And we just asked the people in the room that's on this call for the first time to just type in the chat box a number 1 if they on the call with us for the first time. And I've seen a few number 1s, but if you're on this call for the second time, if this is the second Crypto Talk that you attend, not the third or the fourth, the second one, will you do us a favor and just type a number 2 in the chat box, please? If it's the second time that you're on a Crypto Talk, please just type away and give us there a 2, please. And yes, I see Bruce, I see Heine. Thank you for being on the call. Jimmy van Andrade, Jimmy de Andrade, apology, Jimmy. So those that's here for the second time, thank you for coming back. And those of you that's been here more than 2 times, please type away with the number 3 and allow us to see those who's learning slow. We have to come back for repeat coatings. So I'm just joking. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being back in the room. Even Bertus in Bloemfontein. Bertus, welcome, buddy. I haven't seen you in quite some time. And Pierre Peterson, definitely 3+. Hey, but some people need more than 3 to get the info. Eh? But I hope it's going well there with you in White River side. Welcome, everyone. Tonight we have a special guest in the room, and I will talk to our special guest and ask him a few questions, and we might just pop in 1 or 2 peculiar questions in there and have some fun tonight. But Marius, my co-founder of the Crypto School, if you would like to say hello to the team.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a pleasure to be here Monday evenings. So I'm so looking always forward to Monday evenings, spending time with you guys, and just digging deeper and deeper into cryptos. So I just want to change quickly my background here. And Craig, that is where I met you in Singapore. About
I stayed in that hotel, eh?
Yes, and that is one of my goals, to stay in that hotel someday again. But I've got small children, so to just go with my wife back to Singapore, it's going to be a small mission, but as you know me, if it's on my goal list, I'm definitely going to do it. So ladies and gentlemen, yes, I'm looking forward to tonight's call, and what an exciting time that we are in. So Daniel, thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Marius. And tonight we're just going to talk crypto. And we have a special guest, and Marius have now lifted the lid on our special guest tonight. Craig van Zeil is in the room, and we'll talk, and I'll have a little discussion with him. But before I go over to Craig and we have our little discussion, allow me to just introduce you to our resident, our in-house, our local, our resident subject matter expert on crypto trading, Mr. Jason Ashington himself. Jason, we know that we're not going to see you next week. Jason is on his way to Kruger. And what an absolute privilege to go spend time in Kruger. But Jason, tonight you're still here. So can we ask you to just focus for one evening more and to be present and to be in the room and say hello to the team, buddy?
Absolutely, Donnie. I am trying to focus, but I'm still very excited. I'm very excited to what we're going to expect from the crypto market in the next 18 months. And everybody on the Zoom call today, you are really privileged to hear from, I would say, one of our experts in South Africa, Craig, to hear what he has to say about his past experience in crypto and what he expects to see in the next 18 months. So, Craig, yeah, great to have you on the Zoom tonight.
Thanks, AJ. Always good to be with you.
Cool. So now Marius has lifted the lid on our special guest and Jason introduced our special guest. So all that's left for me is to ask thank you, Jason, is to ask our special guest a few questions. And Craig, maybe before I just jump in and ask you some questions, please tell us just where did you grow up and did you actually attend school, and just one or two little things about Craig from way back when.
So Craig was born in Joburg. In fact, in the northern suburbs, a place called Randburg. And that's where I spent all my up until army days. Went to Hyde Park High and Blairgowrie High, one of the rough schools, but that was what formed us. Army in Potch in artillery, and then 2 years army, and then left that and did a BCom in, believe it or not, in IT, information technology. But in those days, we were still working on mainframes. So, and I always smile to think that my first job when I left Wits with a BCom degree in my back pocket was to sell the first desktop PCs that came into South Africa, the original IBM desktop PC, and you needed a degree to go and sell a desktop machine that you can just buy off the shelf in probably a pick and pay store today. But yeah, that's where it started, and that's where it grew from. You're muted. You are muted, darling.
Needed to find the unmute button. My apology, Craig. Thank you for that. And I promise you, there was some stuff in there that I did not know. But you didn't do too badly with your BCom degree to where you are today. But since you now put that out there for us to chew on, that BCom degree of yours today, it's still helping you still. There must be so much that you do in your day-to-day life today that still come from what you learned studying that BCom degree way back when.
Yeah, there was a lot from those days. I actually went on to do an MBA at one point, which I did as well. But saying that, I still think the BCom was the best of the degrees. You know, I was never a corporate man, and it probably took me to do the MBA, which I did pass, to realize that I was not going to be a corporate man and I needed to get out on my own. So from there, it was into my own businesses. From the mid-1990s, just it seems like a long time ago. But yeah, I look back on those days and it was amazing. I mean, I remember, as I said, I went to work for this company. It wasn't even IBM. It was a small computer company. It was run by a woman called Joan Joffe, who brought the first desktop computer into South Africa before IBM brought it in. IBM was still selling mainframes, and she parallel imported desktop machines. And I was about 6 months in, and one of the guys sat down with me, our technology officer, and he said to me, listen, just take $1,000, which was only about 1,000 Rand in those days, and buy these Microsoft shares. This guy, Bill Gates, he says every house in the world will have a computer one day. And I was like, nah, way, it's not going to happen. And I'm not joking, about 6 months later, he sat with us again and he said, listen, just take $1,000, which was like 1,000 Rand, and buy this share called Apple. There's this guy, Stephen Jobs, and I'm telling you, you're going to make money. Well, either of those $1,000 would have made me a multi-dollar millionaire today. But needless to say, I never took his advice then. But saying that, when I look back in 2016, when I look back on those years, that stuck so solidly in my brain. And that's what actually gave me the confidence to move forward into crypto. That's probably another story you didn't know, Donnie.
Cool. Yes. We'll get to the get into crypto story a bit later. I've got that planned up on my side. And just to show the audience that we didn't set up questions that you're aware of, I just have listed questions on my side without discussing it with you, because as I know you, you're off the cuff guy. You just you'll just say it as it is, and that's what we appreciate about you. And thanks for being on this on the school and allow us to just dig a bit deeper, because I want to get to the one or two of the technical questions with regards to crypto, but that for a little bit later. And if we now say, but we now know the story of where you come from and what you've done and how you progressed in life and what triggered to you to be a business person and not a corporate Johnny, because a lot of people are in corporate and it's cool. And maybe I shouldn't have said corporate Johnny, because for some people that's derogatory, and that was genuinely not my intention. So if I offended someone, please accept my apology. Some people are just born to be amazing corporate people. I mean, the two names that you just mentioned, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. I mean, they are people that created their own corporate. But the key is we progress in life. And if you have to go think and say, but how's it, what and where have gotten Craig into crypto trading and not shares or securities or commodities or Forex or whatever? As fast forward to how did you get into trading crypto, and have you ever thought that crypto will become what it is to you today?
So before I answer that question, let me step back a bit. So when I did, as I said to you, I realized when I was doing my MBA that I wasn't a corporate person. How did I realize that? I only worked in 2 jobs in my life. The first one was selling these desktop computers. And from there I left, and it was really pressure from, not pressure, but nudging gently from the side from my parents, you know, get a good job, get a proper job. You know what it's like. And I joined Deloitte, but in the consulting division, not in the accounting division. And I always, as much as I felt that I was going between different projects and different companies, I think working in those companies, and a lot of them were, as it were, government type companies that we used to take going in consulting, I just realized that for me, I just never felt it was a square peg in a round hole. What can I say? I just never felt that I fitted. And I just thought, well, maybe I need to learn more. Maybe I need to do this more. And it was actually one of the final, right at the end of my MBA, it was quite weird. We were on one of the guys that came in and talked. I don't remember what the subject was on. And he actually used those exact words. And he said, if you ever feel like you're a square peg in a round hole, maybe you are not doing what you were meant to do. And I was there and then I decided this corporate thing is not for me, you know, and I needed to get out and start doing business on my own. And I've been in many different businesses of my own, all which have been, I wouldn't say massively successful, but certainly reasonably successful. And I just enjoyed that journey. You know, I just enjoyed being on my own, being my own boss, deciding what I want to do. And that's, you know, all that started off in my own businesses in 97 was when I started on my own. And that went through till about 2002. It was my second business, which I then sold here in South Africa, moved to Australia, lived in Australia for till 2011, then came back because my parents were really ill, and started another business in South Africa. So I've always had my own businesses. And then I think you know the story. I mean, it's effectively 2015, my oldest daughter, so I've got 4 kids, 3 girls, 1 boy. My oldest daughter, her name is Jess. And she got a very rare form of cancer, which we found. I mean, she was living in Australia at that stage. I was backwards and forwardsing between South Africa and Australia. I got divorced in the process, but I was effectively still going back a lot, and I still do go back to Australia a lot. And she came here for a holiday, and we found this very rare form of cancer on her eye. And that started an enormous disruptive journey for me and everyone around me for, you know, well, from then, in fact, until now, but really heavily for 2 years. And it was in that time that I then started investigating, getting involved in crypto. So basically what happened was I'd had my own businesses, always had my own businesses since 97. And suddenly when my daughter got ill, everything came to a grounding halt, because when you're a one-man business or you're running your own business, as much as it sounds lekker and it's good to have your own business, we know the cash flow quadrant, you know, owning your business just means that you've got you really just have you're boss of your own job, you know. And things came crumbling down in many aspects of life. Financially, the business, I was having to spend time in Australia, flipping backwards and forwards, medical, you know, there's a lot of things that happen around cancer. That was about September, or it was early parts of sorry, I'm just trying to think now, 2015, that she got ill. Later, she was 22 years old at the time, around September of 2015, she had this rare form of cancer on her eye. They came up and they said that she had to have her eye removed, which was, you can imagine, for a 22-year-old girl, a devastating blow. They went through this massive operation to remove the eye. We looked at every possible, as a dad, you're looking at every possible angle to try and stop this. And the surgeon sat me down one day and he just said to me, listen, he said, I'm taking the most aggressive form on this operation now, and that is to remove her eye. He says, even if I remove her eye, she still only has a 50-50 chance of living. So don't mess around with this, you know, let it happen. And my daughter actually embraced it far easier than I embraced it. Anyway, she had this what I call the most horrific operation in September of 2015. It was probably the worst period of my life, having to be there. And no, they didn't even give her a pre-med. We had to walk her down to theater knowing what was coming out, you know. Anyway, so she lost her eye. And it's a huge, huge adjustment. You can imagine there's 3 other kids. Everything's collapsing. Business is collapsing because all you focused on is your little girl, you know, and you want her to be well. And all the surrounding, you know, psychologists and family and, you know, everybody's affected by this lot. And by the early parts of 2016, I realized that I was getting crippled financially, and that there was no possible way that I was going to survive. And that's what got me to start seeking out something else that was going to be able to make money for me. You know, you think you've got your own business, that's the ultimate, you've got your own business. But suddenly having my own business was a huge problem because there was no one to pay salaries to me, you know, plus the business was collapsing and the expenses that come with it. So that was what started the journey. Luckily, I've always been entrepreneurial. So I'd had a number of my own businesses on the way. So I think with an entrepreneurial mind, what can I do? What do I need? And I started going through business after business idea in my head and going, well, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Why? Because I knew that I needed to be flexible with my time. I needed to be able to be wherever I needed to be. I needed to be there and still be able to earn money, you know. So that, you know, we always talk about those freedoms: place freedom, time freedom, financial freedom. Then was the first time that I really realized it, and then started looking at how, you know, what I could do to change my life. I don't know if you want to comment on that before I carry on.
No, it's fascinating, Craig, and I knew part of the story. I didn't know all the detail that you're sharing today. Thank you for being open and sharing it, because I have a reason why I asked you these questions, and then you've gone back into this. I had another question to get part of this information from you, and thank you for putting that on the table, because it's important. Because in there you've mentioned 1 or 2 things that you have to cope. First and foremost, you were entrepreneurial, and that's what saved your butt. Because the fact that you're entrepreneurial, you could always think of something to do and to get and to make money. And secondly, you had to go look at other people and other people's advice to help you. And you referred to the cash flow quadrant of Robert Kiyosaki as an example. And I've just picked up on what you said, because it's important that sometimes in life we have a coach. We have someone that can help us. We have someone that can assist us to take what we have built in us to the next level.
Yeah, you know what's the hardest thing though is that, it's so easy to plan when life is calm. When life is in crisis and you now have to think your way through it, it's really hard. And that's why I'm so passionate about speaking to people that while things are good, because if we look at what's going on in the world around us, things are not so lacquer, all around us. Now, do we just go with the flow and let it drift, or do you start making plans while you are reasonably okay? And that was the big thing for me, was I thought I was okay in my own businesses, but that all unfolded, And in making those decisions in those crises, yeah, you have to pull on those things. And probably another story you don't know, which I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear. One of those big things that I got a hold of again was the book Think and Grow Rich. I pulled that. I went and bought another copy of that book, and I started going through that book. Because I knew it was a mental game. Yeah, mine, not the old version like that. I had a newer version, but it was a mental game. And you have to get on top of it mentally in a time when you're just not mentally capable, if that makes sense, and reading that book in that crisis and then thinking these things and writing down in the back, as you go through the book, as you go through the lessons, was extremely challenging. And I had no idea how they were going to work out. But I read it and I just believed it. And not only the book, but I mean, of course, I was praying and everything, that it would somehow unfold. And so it did unfold, over the time. But that book was there, was a big part of it.
Cool. Thank you, Craig. And yeah, it is so amazing that what we can get from just reading. And so many people today are not reading. And allow me to just backtrack 2 steps and say, we at the Crypto School, we have a program that we created with 5 different coaches to help people exactly through what Craig is saying now, to be able to get through that quicker, to be able to help you, and to be able to have outside help to assist you to cope with where we're at today. And allow me to just play you this short advert clip with the professional program that we have at the Crypto School, where you have 5 coaches journeying with you: a life coach, a business coach, a way marker, a goal setting coach, an implementation coach, and a mindset coach. And just look at this for one moment. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's easy when life is good. It's easy when things are on your side. But sometimes life throws you a curveball. And Craig, thank you for sharing that with us. And I don't know if you finished with that part of the story, and if you still have something to say before I continue with the next question.
Well, that was the middle of it. So she had this cancer in the 2015. September, she had her eye. She removed her eye. Beginning of 2016 is when I realized that I was in financial trouble. I realized my business wasn't working for me. The business was crumbling, so I had to try and keep that going. And I still yet had to be extremely flexible, earn money, etc., getting back to Australia. So that was the first part of the cancer. She came through that part of the cancer and all seemed, as it were, okay for almost a year. So I'm trying to piece 2 parts of the story together. So September 2015, September 2016, the cancer came back. So the very operation that they'd given her, where they said there was a 50-50 chance of living to get rid of the cancer, she was sort of cancer-free for almost a year. And then just like that, we were thrown back into crisis in around September of 2016. It was just before that, though, in the January, I'd realized that I was in trouble financially, where I had to start making a plan. And there was that journey. I was actually just thinking while you were there, I just quickly went to my Google Drive, and while you were talking, I downloaded a short 2-minute video of my daughter. If you want to see it, I can play it. I don't know if you've seen it before. The problem is when I play it, I cry. I'll play it. But what it does is it starts making you really think about the ways to make money, you know. And that's how I effectively got into crypto. And it's amazing how things happen in your life. And then it goes all the way back to the beginning. Remember the conversation I told you about Microsoft putting $1,000 in, Apple putting $1,000 in, and I never did it. So when I was sitting working out what could I possibly do to make money, I remember once sitting on an airplane in 2014 and seeing a video or a movie on the in-flight thing about Bitcoin. It was called The Rise and Rise of Bitcoin. It was the early days of Bitcoin. The video was not very, it was a good video, but it was the dark days of Bitcoin. You know, it was still being used for drugs, and there was, you know, all that stuff was happening, and it kind of left you very much in the air as to whether this thing called Bitcoin could succeed. But I was thrown back to seeing that video, and then I went and found it and downloaded it off one of these Pirate Bay type sites, and I watched that thing again, you know, and I looked back and I thought, you know what, I missed out on two incredibly disruptive things in my life that someone had told me about and I never acted on. So I started looking at Bitcoin from, could this disrupt the current system? Because there were many disruptors in our life, you know. I mean, I started, when I part of my selling the first computer, we sold the first fax machines. You know, I mean, it was like disruptive. How you got this thing? You used to go into someone's office, plug it in, call your office, they put this paper, it comes through. People are like, what? They're coming out of the telephone line, you know? And that was the angle that I started looking at Bitcoin at, was could this be the disruptor? So there was not groups like this where we could talk and ask and debate. And, you know, I didn't know anybody who knew Bitcoin, nobody. So I had to do everything myself. It was just me and YouTube and Google. And I looked at everything, as I always say, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, to try and work out, was this, because the people are polarized. They still to an extent are polarized. People love Bitcoin and they hate Bitcoin, you know. And I had to look at both angles and then decide not whether it was going to become $1 million Bitcoin at that stage. Okay, is this going to make money to enable me to be able to pay my bills and get going again? That was my sole focus in terms of studying it, you know. So that's where I started there. But anyway, just to tie back into Jess, and then we'll move on from there. So with Jess, so she got the cancer again in September of 2016. This time the cancer came back on her brain. So the worst possible place you can get melanoma cancer is on your brain. And they literally gave her 6 weeks to live. It was like from one day to the next, she was fine. And the next day we were in crisis again, you know, and then in hospitals. And I literally left South Africa, went back to Australia, and I spent 5 weeks with her in 5 different hospitals, sleeping next to her bed every day while they had to do a brain operation to remove this cancer, whatever, you know. And this little video clip was a small clip that came from, they interviewed her from 60 Minutes. You know, it's like Carte Blanche in Australia, the TV show 60 Minutes. So there was a small video, and I clipped just 2 minutes out of it so that you can see that she's real and the story that I'm telling you is real, you know. So if you give me a sec, I don't know, can I share screen now?
You're welcome.
Let me just get the video. Sorry, I just downloaded it quickly, so I want to just
on 60 Minutes.
Okay, just give me 1 sec. Sorry, I just quickly downloaded it off my Google Drive. I'll share. Can you see the screen?
We can see your screen, buddy.
On this holiday weekend, I want to introduce you to a beautiful young Australian for whom life hasn't been a holiday. But how Jess Van Zeil is coping with the cruel card she's been dealt, well, it's amazing and way beyond her years.
Just a quick 2 minutes of it, you know. But you know, when you have that, and I was going through it as a goal that you need to sort, because that becomes your focus. You know, all that teaching and everything just comes to you, you know, in a way. And I believe that's how it came to me. And that's how I got involved with cryptocurrency. So basically I looked at it from this disruptive nature. Could it disrupt? Bitcoin at that stage was 10,000 Rand, was $600. I didn't have the choice of saying, okay, well, I'll put $1,000 in this time, because if I needed it to change my life, I needed to take this thing seriously because I was in serious trouble. So for me, it wasn't, and I think Jason always knows that still to this day in our trading. I think about it for 5 minutes, boy, and I'm in. When we're analyzing new projects and that, and that's literally what happened. I literally took a property a small tiny property that I'd inherited from my dad, sold it, and I just took that money and went poof, we're in. And like 3 weeks later, Bitcoin went from $600 to $400. It dropped like 30%. Today, people, and I was like, oh, the guys were right. We were at the top. The market's over. I was too late, etc. Now you look back on it, people go, geez, you were so lucky to buy Bitcoin at 10,000 Rand, But that's where the journey started. And that was the reasoning for doing it and getting involved and taking it so seriously, and why I'm so passionate about it and its ability and the need for freedom, the need for place freedom, the need for time freedom, the need for financial freedom. Is when you say have something like that happen, and you don't know what way it can come. For me and my family, it came in that form. For other people, it comes in a death. For other people, it comes in whatever, retrenchment, accident, many stories. You need to be ready when things are good, not have to operate out of a place when things are so dark around you.
Awesome, Craig, and what good advice that is. I mean, it's amazing advice coming from that. And if I can now take Craig and I say, but let's go back to that little guy, the chap that just finished his BCom. If Craig could today talk to his 22, 23, 20, how old were you when you finished your BCom? If Craig today could give some advice to that chap, what would that advice be, bro?
I think back on it a lot, and because I do give that, I'm dispensing that advice all the time, And, I think the important things are that, you need to take your financial planning into your own hands. We're just so easy to hand it over to a broker, to someone else. You sort this out. You sort out this part of my life. And you don't really pay attention. You just expect that that's what's happening. And that is what happened in 2016. When I now started pulling these policies that I'd been investing in and now looking what was going on for the first time that I really was looking. Before, I didn't really look. I just put the file in the drawer every time the guy came and he told me you're going to have all this money one day. But then when the tire hit the road, I realized, but this is my responsibility, And that is that is certainly one of the bits of advice, is that you need to take your own financial planning seriously. You need to, for me, I'm very pro people being involved in their own businesses, so I'm a big proponent of that, but that's just because of my entrepreneurial nature. So I'm obviously always encouraging and trying to help people in terms of going their own way, because I believe in the need for freedom. I don't believe that we were brought to this world to be a slave, to have to work, to give your time up to someone else who's actually making money from your time. You can make that money from your time, but that's a separate story. But that's the kind of advice that I give to people, is to go for it. In such uncertain times, especially now, take matters into your own hand. You can do it. And it's just so much easier today than it was then.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. That's it's so true. And that's so typical Craig. I asked Craig, what advice will you give to a young Craig? And he said, man, back at the young Craig, let's give the advice to the people in the room tonight. So that's just who you are. And that's how we know you. But I know everything in crypto trading is not always fun and roses. What was your biggest bummer crypto trading?
I think that of course, the hardest part about crypto trading is the mental side. The mental side is everything. And I actually had a picture just the other day, and I was talking about it to Sheldon, and I said, crypto trading, if you think of an iceberg, you always have the typical story of the tip of the iceberg is on top of the water, and underneath the water is 80% of the iceberg. And I said to Sheldon, that tip of the iceberg at the top is your technical analysis and your fundamental analysis. It's just that little tip. Everything underneath regarding trading is the mental, psychological side of trading. It's the bulk of it, and we never realize it. And it takes so much time, and it's something that I have to continually work at. And I think we all, no matter who we are, people that are in this room that are traders, you're continually battling the psychological aspects of trading. So obviously when things go bad on you and trades go south on you, it can hit you hard. You know, like for example, March this year, I mean, I'm an experienced trader. March this year, in the Corona crash, I lost my nerve. You know, I lost my nerve on that big drop, and I sold out Bitcoin at $4,800. And it has taken me so long to get back, because every time it came back up, I kept thinking it's going to drop, it's going to drop, it's going to drop. And the negative sides of it have definitely been obviously in the losses. And I mean, you know, some of the things, I mean, since 2017, you know, we've made a lot of money, we've lost a lot of money. We've made a lot of money, we've lost a lot of money. Made it, and 3 or 4 times. The trick that we mention it even on this thing, is not making the money is not the problem. It's keeping the money. And that's where I think the group comes in terms of being able to help. It's keeping the money. Making it is actually quite easy.
Cool. And thank you, Craig. And your highlight, what's your highlight? If you have to go find something that, I mean, everyone in everything that we do, there are always some highlights standing out. What are 1 or 2 of your highlights with crypto trading? With
trading specifically?
Yes.
So I think one of the highlights, well, there's been many. I mean, you know, there's so many. I'm trying to think, you know, to pull a few. I think first a lesson before I give you a highlight. So a lesson that I learned, which was in early 2017. I'd been in Bitcoin since June of 2016, and I didn't know anybody. I never knew another person that owned a Bitcoin until I met Brett 8 months later. That was the first person I found who actually knew something about Bitcoin. So going through the whole of 2016, and all we were in South Africa, there was one exchange I knew about was Luno, and you could only buy Bitcoin. So I wasn't even exposed to these other so-called altcoins. And I started realizing, you know, that there's all these other coins. And I used to look at these exchanges, Bittrex, Bitfinex, and I was so scared to move my money there because I didn't know what I was doing, you know. But at any rate, I got this gut feel that this number 2 coin, which was the ethereum, there was a place for me to put some money. And I always tell the story. January of 2017, Ethereum was $8, $8. And I had $8,000, and I said, I want to buy 1,000 of these Ethereums at $8. Believe it or not, Donnie, I did not know how to buy them. And I didn't know anyone who could tell me how to buy it. It was $8, eh? I went to a trip in Australia in the March. It was now $120 from the 8. I then found an exchange there that also could sell Ethereum, because in South Africa I only knew Luno, Bitcoin. I didn't even know about AltcoinTrader, who were actually around. And then I moved this money to Australia, and I ended up buying that Ethereum at $120. That 3 months, so it went from $8 to $120, did something in my head. And I went, wait a minute. If this is what can happen in crypto, I need to start learning. That was the big aha moment for me, was to start learning. And, you know, to cut a long story short, that thing went from $8 to $1,400 at the end of the year. So that was the lesson. The highlights were, of course, being in Bitcoin in December of 2016, it was $1,250. January 2017, it dropped to around $800. We had a huge drop, 30–40% again. And we started off that year at 800 and 850, somewhere around there. And I mean, we culminated at like 19,700 in 1 year. That was, you know, one of the most amazing journeys. I mean, ups, downs, freaking out, you know, elation, wanting to jump off the bridge. I mean, it was like crazy. So that was definitely hard, was to go through that journey, especially after I started to get to know that the people had really pegged the top at $10,000. And we literally went from like $8,000 to $19,000 in less than a month, you know. One of the other highlights, one of the best trades that I ever had, and please don't get me wrong, it's not because I was a master trader, it was, as I always say, more arts than class. But I woke up one morning in the first week of December 2017, and all these coins were going crazy. They were going nuts. You know, coins were going up. And I was sitting there thinking, there's got to be a nugget in here, you know. And I was looking down CoinMarketCap, and there lying at number 4, number 5 was that coin called Ripple. And I had a look at this thing, and it was 21 cents, eh? And I thought, you know what, this is in the top 5. And I always remember the story with property, eh? Buy the worst property in the best neighborhood. And I thought, you know what, This is the worst piece of property right now amongst this top 10 of coins. And I went in on that Ripple that day. Even my kids, I said, take your money now. You got to buy this coin today. It was 21 US cents. I'll never forget it. 3 weeks later, it topped out at $3.40 from 21 cents. I would love to say I sold it at $3.40. I sold the half at $1 and I sold the other half at $2.40. But that was probably one of the highlight trades ever was to have gone through that. I mean, this is life-changing stuff, you know, and you've just got to find these nuggets, and they're there to be had.
Yeah, I can really testify to that. Is one of my best trades ever was also Ripple, but for me it was from a total different angle. I just liked the name. Ripple was so good on my Afrikaans tongue, so I just liked the name. But I left most of my profits on Ripple on the table because I never took it off the table. So I learned serious lessons because I had no one to help me with regards to this. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But we just bought the stuff. And
exactly.
Craig, if I can say, if there's a newbie in the room, if we talk and we now tonight talk to someone that it's brand new, that doesn't know anything about crypto, they don't even know that there's an Ethereum and a Ripple. If there's a newbie, what's the short line? Where do they start? What do you do if you're a newbie? I mean, this is this whole new field, this whole new opportunity. I'm a newbie. I don't know what to do. Where do I go? What do I do to start?
That's actually a harder question than you'd think. You know, Donnie, what I do is look. Generally, these days, people have heard of cryptocurrency in one way or another. Generally, people have heard about it because of what happened in 2017. So at least you're starting from a point. You know, most people have a negative perception to it. Most people that don't know anything about it have some negative perception about it because it's used by the drug lords and the terrorists and blah, 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 to move money around the world illegally, you know. So my advice to them always is I always want people, before they get involved in crypto trading, is to understand what this thing is, to understand what this asset class is. And there's many videos on YouTube now about Bitcoin and its history, you know, and you can speak to anyone that on here and you'll be referred to it where you can actually just get that overview. But you need to go through that aha moment that I went through in 2016. Is this the disruptive technology that can literally change the world? And for me, of course, the answer was yes in 2016. So it's 100% yes now. And it has changed so much that it says yes to many more. You know, it ticks many more boxes. But my honest thing would be get comfortable with this technology. Don't just go into trading something that you don't know what it is. You know, believe in this thing. Understand what it is so that you can understand the volatility that comes with it. So the next time when you see a report in the press that China's banning Bitcoin or, you know, the government, I had a person just today, a person phoned me from Australia and said to me, you know, this Bitcoin thing, one of my friends wanted to get involved in it. I told them to stay clear. She says, because what happens if the government switch off the internet? She said this to me today. You know, the whole thing will disappear. I said to her, you know what? I said, I thought about this exact thing. And I said, do you know that the first satellite is being launched into space that's going to contain the whole blockchain on satellite? So the governments can't even shut down the internet anymore because the blockchain will still be living in space. And you know, when you begin, none of that stuff throws you anymore because you need to understand what we're at and what the opposition is for it. So that when it gets thrown at you, you don't freak out, dump your money and run away, that you hold fast to your belief, you know, that Bitcoin and blockchain and DeFi is going to change the world of finance as we know it in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I still have a number of questions which I know I'm not going to get to because you're an interviewer's dream. It's so easy to talk to you because you just give the information by the bucket load and not sitting there in yes or no. And I still have to give Jason a chance to show us what he prepared for us tonight. But one last question, Craig, before I ask you for grace to get Jason on, and then we will come back to you to concluding remarks. But one last thing, just from another angle, give us something peculiar about Craig van Zeil.
Well, I'm definitely not normal. I think differently, I act differently. And you know what? I used to feel, I always say the square peg in a round hole. But I have to say, in the space that we are in now, I'm far more comfortable being the real me, you know, than having to pretend to be someone else like I was in the corporate world and in the business world. You know, I'm just me. And so maybe it's nothing peculiar about me, but I, you know, you get what you see with me, you know. And so my passion, what you see is there always. I very, very rarely get down in the dumps, very rarely. You know, I have an ability to luckily not get into that space. But peculiar about me, I'll have to ask Ash that question. In fact, I want to ask her while you're asking the next question.
Cool. Thank you, Craig. I'm gonna leave you there for this moment, and we'll get back to you for concluding remarks, and you can hear what Ashley told you about what's peculiar about yourself. And thank you, Craig. Jason, you have prepared something with regards to crypto and the space that we're in. Please be so kind as to share that with us, buddy.
Thanks, Donnie. And yeah, Craig and Donnie, you're welcome to comment on what I'm going to actually share tonight. And what I'm going to share is just really why people need to get into crypto now, you know, for those people that are on the call tonight. And I'm just reading an article that I've read 2 days ago, and it's relating to an investment company called Grayscale, who this week just purchased a further 17,100 Bitcoin. And if you take the current price of Bitcoin at $10,900, that equates to $185 million worth of Bitcoin just bought in the last 7 days. And if you look at the total position in Bitcoin right now, they're sitting on 450,000 Bitcoin, and the current circulation of Bitcoin is at 18.5 million. Now, if you take the 450,000 Bitcoin, that represents about 2.5% of all Bitcoin Grayscale's holding. And a rough estimation to the value of that is at $4.7 billion. Now, if Grayscale is purchasing Bitcoin right now at $10,900, and the public are scared to buy Bitcoin at $10,900, what does Grayscale know that you and I don't know? So, guys, I'm going to go back and have a look at what is the prize at the end of the day that myself is working towards, what Craig is working towards, what is Donnie working towards, and Marius working towards. And I'm just going to share my screen quickly. And what I'm going to do when I share my screen here is just to give you a bit of evidence in where we're going to with Bitcoin in the next sort of 18 months. And I'm also just going to go back to 2017 and just reflect on 2 or 3 coins and what they actually did in the space of 12 months, just to give you an indication of what we're going to expect in the next 18 months out of some coins. That will help you to understand why we talk so much about the importance of getting into crypto right now, and what it's can actually potentially do to your financial position in the space of a short period of time. So allow me just to share this quickly. And I apologize for people that have already seen this, and I've showed it to 2 or 3 times, but just allow me. And what this is, it's from a website called digitallrk.net, and it's a stock to flow model. So what it means by that is it takes into account the current amount of Bitcoin in circulation of 18.5 million, and the amount of Bitcoin that gets produced every 10 minutes by a mining process. And if we look back in history, we can see that there's been a halving every 4 years. Now, what we mean by halving is that the amount of Bitcoin produced every 10 minutes get cut in half. And that process started in 2012, where we went from 50 to 25, 2016 from 25 to 12.5, and in May this year, we went from 12.5 to 6.25. The purple line that you can see here is the model price after every halving of what it actually should go to, and the colorful line is the actual price. And you would see here that after every halving, the purple line obviously goes up, but actual price takes a period of time to actually catch up to the model. And when you use a bull run, it overshoots the actual model. It compensates the following year, comes down below the model, overshoots once again, goes below. Now, if we have a look where we currently are, if you can see the data below there, and after this halving, the purple line tells us we should really be in around about 100K, $100,000 per Bitcoin, but price actually right now is at 10,800. Now, actual price to model should catch up by sort of October, November next year, where we should be roughly around about 100,000. But more importantly, as I say, every 4 years, the cycle repeats itself, and there's a bull run, price overshoots model, and that overshooting should happen in the 4th year, which would be next year. Now, if we go to the next website, and this is a website called blockchaincenter.net, and this is just a log view on where we should be going to by the end of next year with the overcompensation, and that sits on around about $180,000 end of next year going into 2022. So this gives you a fairly good idea where we're going to, what the price is going to be at the end of the day. And you can clearly see how that, from current price to then, how that can actually change your financial position if you start getting into crypto. So if we look further, and the next chart I'm going to look at is called the Wall Street cheat sheet. And this chart actually repeats itself on small time frames, but also on large time frames. And it repeats itself on a 4-year cycle, where in 2017, on the previous bull run, we went right up here to euphoria, and we broke down in 2018, right down, 2019 sort of sideways up. And in the last couple of months, we would have seen crypto started creeping up again. And I would say we pretty much on the top here at the top of disbelief, where we're going to see in the next month or two a bit of a downtrend, and then the new bull market that's going to start into 2021, that's going to go right up to euphoria again. So that clearly gives you an idea of what we expect in the next 18 months. So if we go and look at the actual Bitcoin chart on the weekly time frame, and I'm looking at the Bitstamp exchange, and what I've blocked out here is really what we've done on a weekly time frame on a line chart on the weekly. So you can see we started off at the beginning of the year 8.5. We had that Corona dump, and we built up now to 10.8. But if we go back and look at a bit of history here, and I've blocked off 2016, which was year 3 of the cycle, which we've just experienced now, you can see that's a pretty much flat line chart compared to what we had in year 2017, where this massive price shot up like that. And this year 2020, you would see in the next cycle next year, 2020 is going to look like that. Okay, so if we just go back now, and I just want to show you really 3 coins, just to give you an idea what sort of growth we had over the space of 12 months. And I've just chosen 3 coins randomly, and we just take the measurement tool, and we can just look at Bitcoin first of all, and you can see we had a 2,000% gain in Bitcoin. Now, if you take your, if you just put in 10,000 Rand, for example, and times by 2,000%, you can see what sort of gain you could potentially have over a 12-month period. But there was some other coins that actually outperformed Bitcoin. If we just have a look at Ethereum, for example, and Craig alluded to Ethereum on how Ethereum went from $8, and he spoke around in the beginning of January 2017, and it went right up to $1,400 in at the end of December 2017. If we once again take a measurement tool there and measure that growth, That sounds a bit too much. Let me just measure it again.
That's right.
Is that right?
It is so unbelievable that even seeing it times afterwards, you still don't think it can be right.
That's 13,500%. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
But the third chart I want to show you here, and in 2017 we had this coin called N-shares.
Yeah.
Now, N-shares sounded a bit crazy. What is N-shares? And the icon was actually an ant of all things. But it changed its name to Neo. I forget the date when it changed it, but you can see that N-shares came onto Bittrex exchange sort of towards the end of 2016, did nothing, right up to June 2017. And you can see how it took off. Now, if we just take the measurement tool there, where it went from 50 cents, and at the end of December 2017, went right up to $168, you can see roughly 22,500%. Now, we're going to have the same movement in some coins next year. And all I'm trying to show you here is that it's going to happen regardless, guys. And if you can get into some of these coins at the right price and experience some of these gains, it will definitely change your financial position. And that's all we're trying to say here. We're just trying to get the community into the crypto space. And as Donnie and Craig alluded, we are community. We will help you with the process. Do not hand your money over to institutions or somebody else to handle your finances. We'll hold you and nurture you through the process. And that's all from our side, Donnie.
Awesome. Well done, Jason. I could not have done that any better. Thank you. You've done very well. I think for anyone on this call, just looking at that, will see that, you know what, I just need to get into this pool. I cannot afford to leisure on the bed next to the pool anymore. I have to jump in. I have to get in there. But so thank you, Jason, for a job well done. But Craig, if I can get back to you, buddy, I'm not done with you yet. Before I ask you for concluding remarks, and you can share with us what Ash told you that's the most peculiar about us, and I saw you just moved your head there to the right when you said Ash is around here, so I know she's lurking there in the background. Hello, Ashley. I haven't seen you in quite some time. So, but Craig, before you tell us what's the most peculiar thing about you according to Ashley, first tell us, what's the best piece of advice that you received with regard to trading in your life, and from whom, if you remember? But what's the best piece, the gem that you received from someone? Not the one, I know you give us gems daily. We have a big whiteboard where we write on your gems. What's the best advice that you received from someone with regards to trading crypto?
I think there's so many of them, and as you know, I write them on my board all the time. But I think the one that sticks in my mind at the moment as being the best advice is what I wrote over there, where I said, if you don't take your profit, someone else will. So in terms of trading, remember what I said to you, making money is easy. Keeping the money is the problem. And that's why I've got that big saying on my board here. If you don't take your profit, someone else will. So we teach you that in the trading, and we're encouraging people a lot now to take your profits, you know, and it's been a good reminder for everyone, because, you know, that emotional cycle that Jason showed you, greed, the emotion of greed is probably the hardest of the emotions to deal with, because when it's going, you just keep thinking it's going to go, you know. When Bitcoin was at 19,700, that wasn't enough, because we thought it was going to be 40,000 and 50,000 and 100,000. So if you don't take your profit, someone else will. That's my advice to everyone. We're learning to trade. So,
cool. Thank you, Craig. There's one thing that you always mention about take the pennies out of your pocket. I think it's a story. Please share that with us, please.
Yeah, that was, I use that so much with everyone, with my kids, with everyone, you know. But it's those things that your parents tell you, you know, your parents tell you sayings when you're young, And it's only when they pass that you really begin, you know, that you think back on those things and you go, wow, those were really wise words, you know. And my dad always said it to me. And I mean, I stick to that to this day. I mean, I invest in myself so much still to this day. And that is take the pennies from your pocket and put them in your mind, and your mind will fill your pocket up with dollars. And it's so profound. I love sayings. My daughter often says to me, Dad, give me a dad saying for today. I have to go through these things.
Cool. We appreciate you, and thank you for your time, spending time with us. And you can now do the big reveal and tell us what, according to Ashley, is the peculiarity.
I don't know how old it was, but I remember it was in the earlier days when I was with Ash. Her niece came to the house here to come and visit. And she walked into the house, and yeah, I was in the kitchen. I was baking cakes, and Ash was outside mowing the lawn. And her niece looked at this lot, and she said, something is just not right here. But I love cooking, and I love baking.
Okay, I did not know that, Craig. So I'll make sure that I get an invite to the next braai.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they will be pudding. So thank you, Craig. Last concluding remarks to anyone on this call from Craig van Zeil tonight.
You know, you've heard my story. You've, you know, this journey in a different way can happen to anyone here, and probably has happened to a bunch of people that are on this call. My advice to you is things are so much easier now. You know, we've got an amazing community. Just get involved, you know. It's not going to happen for you. We're not going to make things happen for you, but certainly the framework and the structure and the guidance and the support and the mentorship is there to help you succeed. I seem to say it all the time when I speak with you, Donnie, that really it's just up to you. You've just got to put in that effort, but everything is there to get you and to take you on this journey with us to that, initially that $100,000 and $180,000 Bitcoin, and then that $1 million Bitcoin. And I will be alive to see that $1 million Bitcoin to the before I pass. Actually, interesting story. Interesting story. Last interesting thing. When we were going through all of that stuff with my daughter and things got tough financially, you know, as a parent, I always wanted to be able to buy my kids a house. I've got 4 kids, bearing in mind, and they live in Australia, and houses aren't cheap, you know. And obviously, all of that was thrown out of the window in with what happened. But what I did do in 2017 was that I said to my kids, I always wanted to be able to buy your house, and I can't buy your house. I gave each one of them a Bitcoin, a whole Bitcoin. And I said, I want you to keep, you can spend this Bitcoin. I said, maybe it's the biggest blessing, maybe it's the biggest curse, because you can spend this Bitcoin when you want. I said, but what I think is that within 10 years, you will sell this one Bitcoin in Australia, and the houses there are over $1 million Australian dollars, and you will buy a house with that one Bitcoin. I said, maybe it's the biggest blessing, because you're never going to know, do I sell it and use it as a deposit, which my one daughter has done, or do you hold on to it and buy that whole house in 10 years?
Wow, that's an amazing story. And the key is with Craig van Zeil, that is how it is. That's true. So thank you, buddy. It was an amazing evening. I really enjoyed our talk tonight. You made it very easy. And just because you are Craig van Zeil. And we just want to honor you and say thank you for what you do in our community, for what you contributed in our community and still contributing in our community. The fact that you openly share information and knowledge, and that you created a culture in a team of people sharing knowledge, getting the community. And I would really like to leave the people tonight with a sense of community. We are just ordinary citizens of this world, and we have the profound privilege to impact one another. And we should grab that with both hands, and everyone find the place where we can impact. And Craig, one thing that I can truly say is that you've brought up amazing team members in your team, amazing people that you released to do what you helped and showed them to do. And tonight we just honor you. And tonight is a monument for Craig van Zeil to say thank you for what you're doing in our community. We want to tell you that we appreciate that. And we look forward to many, many, many years and many trades and many laughs, and maybe even at some point the braai and a beer. 100%. But Craig van Zeil, it was a privilege spending this night with you. Jason, thank you for your contribution tonight. And thank you to anyone on the call. Allow me to play out with this little tip.
With the fourth industrial revolution, we have the world at our fingertips. The way we used to watch, engage, listen, and save has all changed. So has the future of money become part of the revolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was an amazing evening with you. Thank you very much for joining us on this call. Have a great evening. Cheers, everyone. Blessings.